Hello and welcome to Slamfire Radio. This is episode 437 for January 6th, 2022. I'm one of your hosts, Adriel.
I am Kyle.
And I am Mo.
Should have had like a 20 gauge and a 22 round handy. Getting to the 2022.
Yeah. You're the 22. No?
I'm the 22.
Year of the 22.
Year of the 22. It is the year of the 22. Yes. I think it's actually, it is going to be the year of the 22. Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at like all the ORPS and CRPS and Maple Seed we're going to get done this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much. Yeah.
Maple Seed's going to blow up.
Do I have any 22? I have 22 stuff to show today later on when we get to it. First, what we did in guns is brought to you by the Calgary Shooting Center, Canada's premier firearms retailer. Right now, they have portable target systems, and they're on like a clothesline system. I'm sure you've all seen like homemade versions of these, but these are like pro versions. They're called zip targets. And if you have a 3-gun group or something like that, and you want like not a homemade one, boom, right there. So
nice.
Makes up to 100-foot range. Oh, don't go that long though, because whenever you go that long, they always like bind up and like go back and forth and bounce around. Slick.
And it just operates off a drill. It looked like from that first picture.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That is very cool.
Trigger shut, I guess.
Just zip tie it.
That is very cool.
Wheels are turning.
Yeah, I got to buy some land and set up a range. Yeah.
169. You know, to just save you some time from going back and forth to Home Depot and stop the dicking around, like 169 is pretty good.
Yeah. I'm interested if that goes one way or just back and forth.
It would be cool if they had like a limit switch on it that made it go back and forth.
It looks like
there has to be
just one direction, but yeah, it'd be cool if they could get it so it goes one way and then it automatically circles around and comes back.
I like Mike's suggestion. Charging bear simulation. You get that thing coming at you. Yeah. It's go right for me.
We've done that with the indoor range. Just hit the button and have the target come right at you.
If you hit it with anything less than a 300 Win Mag, it doesn't count. It bounced.
Yeah. Nice.
According to CGN. Mo, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so I had registered for a match at the RA Center in Ottawa, which got canceled. Now it's been moved to February.
Didn't get enough people?
No, you can guess why. It starts with a C and ends with an id. There was also another match that was supposed to be this week in Quebec, and that got canceled a while ago. So I have no idea when we're going to be shooting again. We'll see how long this goes on for.
It's going to be at least a month. At least a month. Everything's going to be.
I mean, if it's a month, that's okay, I guess. If it's going to be many, many months, that's going to suck. So I finally got I mentioned I got the Wrangler last week, and I finally got the paperwork at the beginning of the week. So, there it is.
Oh,
that's the black one.
Nice. Black one.
And so I got to take it to the range and I got to shoot a bit. And I got my reloads down to under a second, same as my competition pistol. So that's good, right?
Yeah.
Now it's more like 1 day to reload, but
so you should put out a tutorial for that.
What's that?
You should put out a tutorial for loading a Wrangler in under a second. I'd like to see it.
Yeah. No, I was lying.
What's the fastest you could do if you had a spare cylinder? Probably like 3 or 4, because you got to pull the gate down, pull the pin, drop it out, slap the new cylinder in there.
Can imagine practicing that though, like. But I mean, it's a fun little gun to shoot, right? It's cheap because it's 22. So, but yeah, reloading it is obviously. Unloading and reloading is a pain in the butt, but it was still fun to shoot, and obviously not expensive. The other gun I mentioned last week that I shot already was the
Nice.
10 folio, stock 2, extreme. So this is going to be my official production gun for when the matches come back. So I haven't had a chance to shoot at a match yet, but I've just been dry fire practicing with it. In terms of feel for dry fire, it's similar to a Shadow 2, which I was using. The only thing I noticed is that the beaver tail is larger on this. Like it protrudes, a little bit longer out. So I found like I was moving my hand back a little bit because I was like tearing up my palm, like grabbing it, like nailing the beaver tail. So it was just an adjustment on getting my hand back a bit.
Do those use the same mags as the CZ75, or are they a little bit different? Or the Shadow?
I think these mags work in Shadow 2s, but the Shadow 2 mags don't work, and these ones are not work perfectly. So I haven't really. I'm going to try that and report back for next week. But that's the way I understood it. That the Tanfolio mags work in the Shadow 2, but the Shadow 2 mags don't work in the Tanfolio. So.
Okay.
And I had mentioned I had already, like, it came with 4 mags, and I bought 2 more, and then I bought the couple of extra base pads for it.
Nice.
And these are the Eric Kafal one, who doesn't even I guess he's not even a sponsored shooter with them anymore, but they still sell them base mags. What else? I didn't do any reloading. That's really it for me. I'm obviously dying to get to a match, and like I said, hopefully it's going to be a month or less before we get going again, right? Because it's tough.
Less. You guys are still going up. Your graph still kind of looks like this.
I honestly try not to pay attention, but Anyway, so how about you, Kyle?
Well, I got digging into the Gersan, and I have a table full of parts and pieces to go through. So there's a table. Don't actually see the full table there, but go to this camera and start kind of comparing, because I got Benelli M2 that has been mid-work for a while here, but I tore it apart too, well, even more, to kind of compare and see what the differences are between them. So start off with the whole receiver, and the whole receiver is actually quite a bit longer.
Yeah.
Including the recoil tube. So if we line them up right at the back, the recoil tube is longer, and that's actually something very significant later on. It's one of the biggest things with this Gersan that I think is actually really interesting. And also to note, these are both 3-inch guns. So both 3-inch guns, but the receiver on the Gersan is longer, which could aid with your reloads. Your trigger group, while the actual carrier for the trigger group is slightly different, the trigger groups themselves are near identical. It's the same function. In fact, I'm pretty sure even the hammers themselves, they're the same hammer, same sear. And so,
yep,
like they're identical, even for your lifter action rod there, it's identical. So this is the Gersan here, and then this is the Benelli, and they are near identical. A little bit different for your shell drop. Just shell drop on the Gersan's a little bit shorter, but still essentially the same thing. So
do the extractors look the same? One of the things with the M3K, sometimes they don't extract, and then people just go throw a Benelli extractor in there and it works. I'm wondering if that would be something to fix on these ones.
Well, I do have the bolts, and I have pretty much the entire gun of both guns here ready to show. So we'll go with the bolts. So the extractor itself is identical.
Ah, good. If you wear it out or if you break it or something like that, I guess you could use a Benelli one. That's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, time tested to see if it's the same as the Stoger, and you have to put a Benelli one in there. But so that is one part that would be interchangeable. Pretty much everything else on the bolt, though, is not. So your bar for actuating your recoil is longer on the Gersan. And for your bolt rotation for going into lock, on the Benelli, that rotation's done in your carrier. With the Gersan, I didn't pull the bolt because it's actually, unlike the Benelli where it's just a nice pin you can pull out, it's actually a roll pin holding your firing pin in. But your breech pin is stationary on the Gersan, and the bolt itself is cut for your bolt lock. So that's opposite. I would prefer to use the carrier than the bolt to achieve the rotation, but that's me.
Yeah, on my A5 is the same thing, and the M3500 is the same as well. The rotation's on the bolt rather than on the carrier.
One really nice thing with the Gersan that the Benelli doesn't have is you can ghost load it from the factory.
You can't ghost load a Benelli from the factory?
Nope. So you'll see there's a little bit of a weld right there. There's a second notch. So on the Benelli, you actually have 2 stages on your lifter. So for anybody who doesn't know, ghost loading is you load one in your chamber, you got a magazine tube full, and then you throw a shell down on the lifter. It's not in the magazine, it's not in the chamber, and then your first cycle, it loads that round. With the Benelli, when you go to, with any shotgun, when you go to put the bolt forward, your lifter automatically lifts at a certain point. And it's these notches on the bottom of the bolt that achieve that. That comes into contact, and that's your action bar. It mates up with this, and that's what gets your lifter to come up. And if you find, what was it? The Bredas were really bad for that. Benellis can be bad for that too. And unlike the Breda, the Benelli, you just hammer your bolt handle forward, give it some force, and it pops it free. There's something with the geometry there that it once in a while does bind up on these semi-autos that have that. Remington Versamax has the exact same thing as well. But like the Breda, it locks it pretty solid when it does that. So if I ever got my hands on one again, I'd do a lot of work to try and figure that out. But back to the Gersan and that. The Benelli, when you let the bolt go forward and your lifter comes up, you push the lifter down, and on most shotguns, it stays down as the bolt continues to travel forward, which allows you to put the shell on the lifter and ghost load. With the Benelli, it's got a second notch here. Like I've welded this one, so you can either weld it or you can totally soften that out, not have the hard edge, and then that eliminates the second stage. So a factory Benelli, if you let that bolt forward a little bit, push the lifter down and continue, it'll try lifting that lifter again a second time. So I don't know why they did that. At that point, it's already too far forward for a shell to get in to the chambers. So that's something nice on the Gersan. You can ghost load it from the factory, unlike the Benelli. But the Benelli is an easy fix. Barrels. So we looked at the extractors. The extractors are identical. Barrels are similar. I thought this could be an interesting feature, but it doesn't line up with what I was thinking. But one thing on the Gersan I'm not a fan of, we'll see how the longevity is the ejector. So, like, say the Remington, I would say this is more similar to a Remington 1100, except for this ejector is actually replaceable. Unlike the 1100, which I believe it's actually more or less welded in there as a part of the receiver. So, light, it's a pin in there, and it's a little hook right in there that is what accomplishes your ejecting.
Is it spring loaded at all, or is it just...
Yes, it is. Yeah, okay. It is spring loaded, but it's just you can kind of see it there. It just comes to a point. So we'll see on the longevity. I can see that wearing out. Like, that was one problem on the 1100s. They wear out over time. Whereas the Benelli, it doesn't have that sharp point. It is literally just a cylinder. It's just a little pin in here, and it is spring-loaded as well. But I can say that doesn't wear out. That Benelli behind me has been 7 or 8 years of 3-gun competition, and it still ejects no problem. So we'll have to see the longevity of having that style of ejector in there.
Do the barrels fit each other's receivers?
No, because with it being longer.
Oh yeah.
So see there, I've lined up where they interlock, and it's longer, so they're not interchangeable. And even where your hand grip guard goes, we'll still line it up with the receiver, and massive difference.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit earlier. I wonder if they've got some parts on there that are from the Weatherby Element, because I know some of the Turk guns use the SA08 Weatherby shotgun, like clone. Like I took a buddy of mine had the SA08 piston for light loads, and I popped one of those in one of my partises, and it ran fine, and it was like a perfect fit.
Okay. Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's a Turkish gun, and I know I mentioned it last week about the 2-piece shell catch, but I've pulled it out, and I got factory Benelli one here to show. So this is a factory Benelli 1-piece shell catch. And so normally I just hollow grind that out there just for easier loading. A lot of guys will bend them and whatnot, but if you start bending it, you're going to have to go back and do it again and again and again. There's other ways to achieve easier loading than having to do that. And then this is the 2-piece. So that moves independently of the rest of the rest of the shell catch, which is nice. You just grind down that, smooth out that lip there. You can cut half to a coil off this spring in other 2-piece lifters or catches, sorry. And it makes it really nice and easy to load.
I think that's one thing that I haven't done on my 3-gun shotgun that I'd like to do, is just get that click a little bit lighter. And mind you, I think some of the Benelli M4s, like that shell catch is crazy tight.
Yeah. And when I was saying there's other stuff you can do, like you can hollow out just the end of that just a little bit. It won't be centered. So with your gun, take a dummy round or whatever and see where that curve of the shell lines up with that shell catch, because it won't be center of that shell catch. Another thing is when you're doing your load port, do this because it doesn't have a mag tube on there. So your shell catch would go on this side. What you can do is hollow out the opposite side in the receiver where it goes into the mag tube to give that shell some place to go instead of trying to bend past that shell catch. So you can do a little grind on the opposite side so that, like you said, you give your shell, you're still going to be bent. You still want it touching the shell catch, and you don't want to do it too much because otherwise you'll just spit shells out of that, and now your shotgun is useless. But that's something else you can do to make it easier to load. I got the bolt handles. The Gersan bolt handle is actually pretty good, and that's good because I don't know if anyone's going to be making an oversized one for it, because it's a flat bar style like that. I believe the 1301, or maybe it was Weatherby that was similar, but then they have this enlarged tube down here. And for reference, I have a Benelli. It's not a factory Benelli, but it's got the anti-rotation cut out there, and it's just a pin. So very different bolt handles. One thing with this, and I might do it, is just soften up the edges because it is fairly sharp, and in competition, you could probably get your hand pretty good on that. The next thing is actually the biggest thing I find most intriguing, and I can't wait to actually test the shotgun out. So remember what I was saying with the recoil tubes? The recoil tube on the Gersan is actually quite a bit longer. So, and these are the pins. So this goes in your receiver, your bolt comes up against those. Top is the Gersan, so it's actually shorter. So remember, longer tube, shorter action bar, we'll call it, than the Benelli. The Grissan does have this plug that sits right behind your nut. But, so here is the bottom, the silver spring is the Grissan. The top one is a factory Benelli spring. So I'm really intrigued on this, and I actually have a reduced power one. I keep it in the bag so I don't mix up my springs, but and it's about 3/4 of an inch to an inch shorter than a factory Benelli spring, but still about an inch longer than the Grissan spring.
Yeah.
So makes me really intrigued. I think you probably be able to run 1100s out of the Grissan, no problem with this recoil spring. Because it's so short, and it's in that longer recoil too. Because I was looking at it trying to see, okay, well, how did they get a short spring? And everything I looked at says it should be longer, but it's not.
I was just looking online when you were saying the receiver's longer. I'm like, I wonder if there's a 3.5-inch version and they just use one version of the receiver. There is a 3.5-inch version of the MC312-35. I wonder if they just make them the same, and they're just like, why would we make two receiver sizes? We'll just make this one.
Just use this one.
That's possible. But that recoil spring has still got me really intrigued, because I think that it's a low recoil inertia driven shotgun out of factory, which
for less than about $500, which tuned up with some goodies on it would be like 800, 900.
Yeah, you don't have to do much. Like, I'm going to do the load port on this, tune up the shell catch, and put on a oversized bolt release. He wants me to see if I can get a oversized safety put in there, but it'll take some Dremel work. But one interesting thing, there's not many for interchangeable parts, but if you had the money and you wanted, because this is one thing that the Benelli has.
Does it have chokes? Mobile chokes? Mobile chokes, right?
What are these?
I bet they're mobile chokes.
I didn't even pull the chokes, but yeah, they know it.
They have most of the Turkish guns use mobile. Do they come with a set?
I would imagine so. I just got the gun. It's Buddy's gun that he gave me to work on. I don't own it. But just the vein you're on right now, like 3-gun semi-auto shotguns are super expensive. If you get like a Hatsan or something like that, you're gonna break it. They just don't last. But an inertial that has a couple key parts that that shares with the Benelli, like the extractor, that kind of thing. Yeah, I will. I'll pull that choke and I'll get back to you on that, on which pattern the choke is. I mean, he's got a full choke in there right now, but I didn't even think to pull the choke yet.
If it comes with a set, it's probably fine. Yeah.
But so the one really nice thing, and what makes the M2 so nice to shoot, and the gun that I'll put up against any gas gun out there for felt recoil, is their Comfort Tech stock. And I was curious, can we do this? And if you had the money and you were so inclined, and a little bit of dremeling, you could put a Comfort Tech stock on your Grissan. Take a little bit of dremeling just to blend it in, unless you don't care about that. But I was wondering with the longer recoil too, but no, you can still get the nut in there and get your shim so you can get it canted the right way and everything for you. So that's one interchangeable part that could actually really change that gun.
Yeah. So what's in the Comfort Tech stock that makes it different than the 312?
Well, most stocks, like this is the stock for the 312, it's just solid polymer. The Comfort Tech has all these rubber chevrons on it. So they are a pain. Like when I Cerakote, I got pop them all out, and they are fun to pop out, but they're literally holes and they're rubber inserts. And it's for as far as semi-auto shotguns go, it's an engineering marvel, because like I said, it takes an inertial shotgun and brings it down to gun felt recoil.
Wow.
It's an engineering marvel. I don't know how they come up with that, but it works.
Huh.
And that's basically my initial look at the Grisan.
No, very cool.
Wanted to dig in there and just the one I'm really interested in is that recoil. That recoil is once I get the load port done on it, then I will take it out to the range, and I even have some ultra light loads. Like they don't even measure them in dram or anything. Like it's a gram weight. I can't even remember what it is, but they're like powder puff loads. We'll see how it does on the 1100 feet per second loads, and we will try some of those, and I can get it. Not that it would work in a semi, but if it would cycle like a 2.5.
Yeah, or I know a lot of semis like the 1 1/8, and they won't run super reliably with 1 ounce. If it could run 1 ounce, if it can run 7/8 ounce.
If like with a Benelli or even like, well, the M3K has a different recoil spring, but what else? The Benelli, anyways, I put in that TTI reduced power recoil spring. I can run 1100 1 ounce, no problem.
Huh.
I can run them all day long. And that's with that recoil spring, I think you can run that, because that would be what I do. That I put this recoil spring in a Benelli, and yeah, I can run those 1 ounce, 1100 foot per second loads all day long. And I did that for a while, but then you get heavy plates, so I just went back to 1.1 ounce on stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there was one year I was going to a match with probably 4 or 5 different types of shotgun ammo, because I was like, oh, well, if it's all clays, I'll just shoot these little 1100 feet per second. I can really rip on them, and heavier plates. So, okay, I'll get that 1.1 ounce, and then I'd have my Prairie Storm for spinners and and slugs, and yeah.
I think that'd be fine for an IPSC match, for a 3-gun match.
Oh, it got to be too much. Carrying all this different ammo and trying to decide, well, I could do that, and now you're playing with chokes too, and it just got to be too much. So
yeah, too much extra stuff to worry about.
Yeah. So moving on, I'm actually thinking about getting an Oculus VR setup, because there is a new, we'll call it, game out. Well, it was announced last year, and I guess it's out now. It's called VR Practical Shooting.
I've heard of it. Yep.
And so on that, you're supposed to be able to run stages, but also build stages.
Oh, okay.
Build stages and then practice running through them. So I'm wondering if that's not a viable option for designing stages and whatnot.
What's it called again?
VR Practical Shooter. It was going to come out on Steam, but I went looking the other day and all I found was the desktop version. So
it does
not
Quest
virtual
too.
reality.
My kid's got a Quest 2. I wonder if I'm going to buy my first game to put on it. I really like the idea of, I would never shoot VR practical shoot. I want to shoot like Tarkov. I want to shoot people in VR. If I'm going to go into fantasy, I'm going to be some like Russian eating fish out of a can and shooting people with an AK. But for building a stage and proofing it, oh boy, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I got this other one. It's just practical shooting, and it's on Steam. I checked it out, but that was very underwhelming. I mean, you could put your reload speeds and everything, but the guy didn't even shoot. And I started looking at the stage design. So my question to everybody is, if anybody has VR and if anybody's checked out this VR practical shooting, let us know what your thoughts are on it, because I'm actually seriously looking at checking it out and seeing whether it's actually viable for that.
I just sent you the link. If you can check it and let me know if that's the one. My kid's got a Quest 2. I can buy that.
Nice.
Yeah, it was the Quest, not the super high-end one, but that's
the Quest one's a cheap one. That's the one that runs its own graphics. You need like $1,000 graphics cards to run the stuff that connects to the PC.
Yep, but VR practical shooting, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I guess I'll try that.
Okay, so Adriel's gonna let me know before I shell out like $500-$600 for a VR setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And other than that, I posted registration January 1st for the shotgun match that I'm planning, which got me thinking about this VR thing and planning stages and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm planning now. I think I figured out what I'm gonna do for the barbecue dinner, but I posted it in the event so I can talk more about it there. But yeah, that's
you've tried SketchUp, right, for building
that's
stages?
that's what I've been doing for years. I've been using SketchUp. I have all the templates there. It's nice. I'm just thinking if you could proof the stage and that, then that would be so much nicer. Like you'd probably still end up doing. It'd be interesting if it had a format that you could print it out so you can still put it on the matchbook. You might still be doing it on SketchUp just for your matchbook, and that was one thing I was hoping.
Record walking through, not shooting, just walking the stage, just record it, screen grab
with
it.
With this age of digital matchbooks. Yeah.
Don't need to print it.
No.
I have to take a look at the stage building capabilities on there.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure. Other than that, yeah. Adriel, how about you?
I was over at a buddy's place for New Year's, and I got to handle the CF98. Very interesting pistol. Yeah, so that's that Norinco, more modern, like 9mm pistol. Super small grip on it. Like you can really grip that thing. The bumpers on the magazine are huge. They're like both sides. They're just massive. I put a picture up on my Instagram, and if you want to see what it looks like, just massive. So the CF98 rotating barrel, which is kind of neat. Trying to think of other
like
things.
The what is it? The Excalibur. Who makes that? The sorry.
Yeah, one of the Excaliburs had a rotating barrel as well.
Yeah.
Rotating barrel. The sights, it's a 3-dot sight, and the dots are tiny. They're just little pinpoints on there. I don't really like that part. Trigger was fine, so it's a hammer fired gun. The safety is also a decocker, and it's so tight. Like I was thinking this thing would be a good like ladies or youth gun just because of the size of the grip was so nice and small. But the safety decocker is so hard to use. Maybe you could get after it with a file or something like that. I guess I will at some point. But interesting from that perspective. Feels good. Like some of the Norinco guns are made as fast as they can, and it shows. And it's like the fit and finish is just garbage on them. And then some of the other ones, like this one, is very close to what they use as like a standard production pistol there. So I'd imagine they just have this one, and they just use a different barrel for it. So the fit and finish of it is actually fine.
Is it hard to use because you're like trying to work your thumb into the gap? Is that what
for the safety and decocker?
Yeah,
it's just a lot of pressure. You got to put a lot of.
Oh, it's more the actual weight of it. Okay.
Yeah. You're gonna push it. Is it down or up? No, it's up. You have to push it up to decock it and put the safety on.
That's weird.
I don't like that. I kind of like the as much as I don't like the SIG 226, like the decocker on it is just fantastic for a decocker.
Really nice, yeah.
Yeah, the length of travel of it, the fact you catch the hammer with the decocker, it feels like you do. You're not really doing it, but it feels like it. Like boy, like that whole experience is fantastic. Whereas this one is like pushing it up and click, and it's not great from that perspective. But for $250,
yeah, I just had a look. Yeah, those base pads are wide.
I was looking at
like I've got large hands, I guess, and I would pinch my pinky with that one, which happens with some other guns as well that aren't like large competition guns. But you'd pinch your pinky. You have to go pinkies out when you reload it, otherwise you'll catch them eating there.
Pinkies out.
Pinkies out. Pinkies out. Laces out. Laces out.
Yeah.
Is that like English shooting? You gotta get the pinky out.
Fancy shooting.
Yes. You're refined.
Yeah.
Post-match tea.
Yeah. And then also while I was at my buddy's house, I grabbed this off of him. This is the Gray Birch Parka.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of 22s that have threaded muzzles. Which, what the heck do you do with that in Canada? Do you put a suppressor on? Like, you can't put a suppressor on there. You won't put a brake on there because that's dumb. You put like a flash hider on there. You can get a specialty aluminum fire spreader thing that doesn't really do anything, or at least this thing's light. This is like their carbon fiber. It looks like a mini suppressor, but actually this is completely smooth on the inside here, so it's not a cup. It's not going to reduce the sound of it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, just a tube, just a carbon fiber tube.
I love their description on the website of it.
Yeah.
Was this thing again? Maybe it'll work. I don't know. Something like that.
Maybe it's useless. Whatever. If you like it, you like it.
Yeah, exactly. I've got that ISSC has a threaded muzzle. I've got a couple of gray birches. I might try it on those just to see if I like how it looks, because it's surprising. Like on the gray birches, the little thread protector is like steel, and it's like kind of heavy. So I wouldn't mind replacing it with something that looked cool. So maybe it'll be that. I'm reviewing one of these. You're like, oh, big deal. It's like 1 to 6 or something like that. But this is a Swarovski Z8i.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a pricey 1 to 6, and it's not even 1 to 6, because when we get to 1, there's like a click there, and then if you want to, well, you can go a little bit more. You go 1. How about 0.75? You want to see more?
0.75. Interesting.
0.75. So you can just be like, no, more, please.
More, please.
I'd like some more. Yeah. It's kind of odd. Now, that aside, the glass on is fantastic. I don't know how good a glass you really need for a 6X scope like this. The illumination on this thing is so fancy. I can hardly believe it. So it's got like a illuminated circle and dot. The dot is very nice and fine. And if you tilt it to the side, the dot turns off, or up, or anything like that. Dot turns off automatically.
So not good for urban prone.
No, you wouldn't want to use it urban prone. No, it's. I don't think they had that in mind. This is probably for fancy hog hunters in Europe, who want like the best stuff on their hog hunting rifle, and not for Chaz savages who shoot under cars and on top of and like shoot in the dirt and the mud. I don't think we're the target market for this. But
no.
So it's interesting that right on your throw we'll call it the throw lever for your illumination.
Yeah, right here.
Okay,
So
it's a dial in there.
So that's your day or night on there, and then you have plus or minus up here to actually set the brightness of it. So you can go to your I don't know, it's kind of dark in here, I guess. So you go to nighttime, and then I can crank it up to where I want it, right there, and then I can turn it off, and it'll just remember that setting. So the next time I turn it on nighttime, it'll be on to the nighttime setting, or similar to daytime. So when it came out of the box, the daytime was like not bright enough for bright, snowy winter garbage out here like it was, so I had to like crank it up. But very fancy illumination.
What's the reticle like in that?
It is 3 thick post and then thin on the inside, and then the circle is illuminated and the dot in the middle is illuminated as well.
Okay, so no subtensions?
No subtensions, no. I don't know that you would want subtensions on a 1 to 6, except for 3-gun, right? For 3-gun.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking 3-gun, and I want the subtensions, yeah. But cool.
For close in hog hunting or something like that, I'm not sure you would want. Oh, I got to show you the this fancy pants turrets here. You can actually, so on the side there, you can see that you can set the 0 and you can pull it up and rotate it. So if you want to change the 0 on the side there, you can do that.
Toolless.
Boop. Yep. Toolless 0 change.
Nice.
Sounds great, dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice solid clicks.
Satisfying clicks. Yeah.
For the price of it, you'd want solid clicks out of it.
Yeah. Had some. It's like, was that a click or was that a dozen clicks?
It's not so much a click as just a smushy,
gravelly.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm working on that. And the box is like so nice. Like you open it up, it's like
Oh, wow.
fancy.
So you can get some artwork, cut that off, frame it, and
No,
Wow.
you throw it in the garbage. You're like, I don't need this anymore.
Wait a minute, you throw out your scope boxes?
All the manuals are all fancy and whatnot. I was at my buddy's place. You wouldn't like. He has so many cases and boxes. They're just like stacked up like a hoarder. Like I buy as many guns as he does, but my stuff, gets thrown out, or I throw my stuff away.
Yeah, I throw out the boxes that guns come in. Not like the Benelli comes with a plastic case. I never use that case, but I keep that. I keep my scope boxes. I don't know.
I've kept all my pistol cases. Like I never used them, but
I've kept them.
I keep those. Yeah, the plastic cases. They're up in the shelf in the back room.
You'll never use them. You might use it when you sell it. No. You have to mail it. Yeah. Even then, you could probably just put it in a cardboard box. Yeah, I'm mailing you your gun. It doesn't come with a box. Okay.
Yeah.
Did a bit of Maple Seed scheduling, Maple Seed meeting as well. So we're setting that up. And then on last week's show, Spencer mentioned Fat Man, and I saw it coming up on Amazon Prime and decided to watch it. Very good. Very funny. Yeah. I would say it's like super accurate on guns or anything like that, but very good.
Okay.
So
Adriel recommended or Adriel approved.
Hunter
I may have had a couple of wobbly pops when I watched it, but it's not very funny.
It's a drinking show? Okay, got it.
Yeah. Or if you're in Canada, it could be a weed show. Yeah.
Why is that legal now?
So funny story on that, Mo.
I was kidding, of course.
No, I actually have a funny story on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The day it was legalized in Canada, I was at home working and I was downstairs in my office, and my landlord called me. And before that, I was down there working and had smelt this smell, and it smelled like weed. Kind of half jokingly to myself, well, what did midnight strike and the entire city of Grand Prairie light up because it reeked like weed? Well, after about an hour of work, and my landlord calls me, and she's, "Do you have anything that can take care of a skunk?" Of course I do. And that makes a lot of sense now. Her two dogs had rounded up a skunk, and
skunk
I
weed.
Got to go shoot a skunk that day, and then she had it buried before I could get a hold of a taxidermist to stuff it. But I thought that story was going somewhere else.
No, it's not really
Skunks.
a great story, but that's my memory of when weed was legalized in Canada.
I thought like a whole bunch more of my neighbors were going to smoke out, but actually it was about the same as before. No difference. Still smoking out in the open, and really no difference at all. All right, let's get on to some gun stuff. Upcoming events are sponsored by Telos Alpha. Telos Alpha is a Canadian digital agency that works exclusively in the firearms vertical. They help with business processes, strategic planning, websites, e-commerce, and battling the stigma the industry carries with banks, merchant processors, and social media. Learn more at telosalpha.com. Events, Limtic Tactical's Shotgun Mania Challenge will be August 26th to 28th. Registration is live on Practice Score. $275 match fee includes all meals, breakfast, lunch, barbecue, dinner Saturday, meet and greet Friday night, massages. It's all included in there. Maybe not the last one. Maybe not the last one there.
Maybe if you find the right person, maybe.
Ask nicely. Free camping on site with community fire pit and beverage center open after shooting is done for the day. Anything else to mention about that? What's your cap? Do you have a cap on that?
No cap. No, like I said before, we routinely do 300-person matches there for sporting clays. Yeah, action shooting is a little bit different, but if I'm not going to turn people away. If we get 300 people, I will be absolutely ecstatic. I'll be happy if we get what I would really like to see is 100. But it's going to be lots of shotgun action, lots of different stuff, IPSC-esque. So we're going to be basically following IPSC rules. It's not a sanctioned IPSC match, which means we're going to throw on some stuff that may not be IPSC legal, like Texas Stars, Death Stars, golf cart runs.
Nice.
But 18 stages of action shotguns stages, and we're actually going to follow the IPSC. Well, try and stick as close to the IPSC layout for short, medium, long. Stay with that ratio. And yeah, go get registered.
Or a 3-gun match that weekend.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, go get registered for that. It'll be an awesome weekend. Like I said, basically, you don't need to worry about food. You're going to be fed. You're not going to walk away hungry. So we're already figuring out the barbecue supper for Saturday night, and I'm thinking gonna do brisket. It's a lot of work,
Very
but
nice.
We got Lyle there that's going to give me a hand and can watch the smokers while I'm running around. So thinking that.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. The BC 3-gun championship date has been posted and registration is live on Practice Score. The match is July 30th to 31st, and the match fee is $150.
And they're calling it Hell or High Water match, and it's happening. It's happening Hell or High Water.
Those are both a risk in BC.
Yes.
What city is that in?
Flooding?
That's in Lone Butte, outside of 100 Mile House.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's like 10 minutes outside of 100 Mile House. Yeah, I forgot to put that in there.
How far is that from Prince George? That's like another hour or two down the way, isn't it?
From Prince George? Yes, I think it's an hour or two. Like a couple hours, I think.
Yeah.
Just trying to think. No, I think it's actually like 3 hours. I can't remember. It's been so long since they had a match there, like 2 years.
Well, COVID is kind of
yeah, it's been COVID. Yeah.
Oh, the fastest way for me isn't even through Prince. Well, of course, it's not through Prince George. Geez, no, it's way far south of there. Okay, 8.5 hours. That's not bad.
Yeah. See, I can either go through Dawson or go through Jasper, and either way, I ended up going through Prince George. So
Prince George is 7.5 hours, just an hour longer, practically the same. Neat. All right. We've got no news this week. CCFR legal fund donations. If you're looking for a way to help the CCFR fund a massive upcoming court battle, you can do that by entering to win a cool neon sign for the Man Cave or Lady Lair. I like the gender neutral language there, or not neutral, inclusive language that's there. Every $10 donation using this link gets you an entry, and that's at firearmsright.ca/sign_contest. And help now is more important than ever to become a member and donate by sending an EMT to finance@firearmsrights.ca. New Gun Stuff. New Gun Stuff is sponsored by Bolt Action Coffee. Slamfire Radio is a brand ambassador for Bolt Action Coffee. They make coffee in small batches, and you can get it by going to boltactioncoffee.com and using discount code SLAMFIRE. New Gun Stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen any of these, but there have been some developments this week. I don't know if is it SHOT Show? Is SHOT Show coming up quick?
It's coming up quick. Yeah, I think within another, a week away.
These might be like pre-releases to like whet the appetite of the market. The first one is that Savage is releasing their A17 in WSM. I'm excited about that. I like that cartridge.
17
I don't
WSM.
So it's the 27 caliber nail blank, which is bigger than the 22 or whatever other nail blanks they use. This was like when rimfire was so hard to find. They're like, oh, we can't keep up. What about the 27 caliber nail blanks? Okay, let's make a cartridge out of that. And they made this 17 WSM, and it is a cracker. I really like the cartridge. I didn't like the Savage B-Mag, a Savage A17 WSM. Now I'm interested.
See, I just don't like the 17s because they're so hard to clean the barrels. Even with the bore snake, they are a pain in the butt to clean.
Yeah, they are that, but they're so fast and so flat, and like there's no recoil, and you murder gophers with those things. They just rip them apart. You do not need all the power, but boy, is it nice.
Bye bye gopher.
Bye bye gopher. Yeah. or whatever. Like if you were going to go squirrel hunting, squirrels you see close up though. You're not going to shoot a squirrel at like 100 yards.
So I've actually haven't heard of the 17 WSM. Well, maybe I have, but never looked at it. How does that relate to the was it HMR?
HMR?
17,
HMR, yeah.
Bigger, faster. I've got a 17 WSM versus HMR article on my website that talks about like ballistics and whatnot. It's got some distance over it without going to like what's the 17 Hornet if you wanted to go like center fire over top of that. But like these ones are still cheap. The 17 WSM ammo is still relatively inexpensive.
Okay.
Smith & Wesson has a new pistol called the CSX, and it's a bit odd. It's a bit of an odd pistol. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Chrome tab. That guy right there. You're looking at it, you're like, oh, that's odd. It's like Smith & Wesson has the shield, which is like their striker fired, super compact. This is a single action super compact. So you have to use a safety. Yep.
With looks like 2.5, 3 inch barrel.
Very tiny. Yeah.
Not legal in Canada, but
no, we're not going to get in Canada. I just like looking at this stuff because it's like, wow, that's funny.
That is interesting looking.
Yeah. I mean, I like the shield. The shield is like really small and compact, single stack, that kind of thing. This guy, 10 plus 1 rounds, 12 plus 1 rounds with the grip extension. Very small, micro compact.
Nice.
Yeah,
cool.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then this one just came out today, so I didn't find any good articles or anything like that on it. But the Vortex Razor HD Gen 3 6-36 scope is
6-36. Okay.
I don't know if it's out. It's been announced. 4,000 US. Woo. Steep MSRP. Yeah.
Oh, 4,000 US. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's cool scope. 6-36. That's a pretty high magnification range.
Yeah.
And decent. I think I saw the adjustment on it, so it's got more on the elevation than on windage. It's got, I think it's with 30 mils or so, 30, like more than 30, 35 or something like that for elevation. So yeah, some decent elevation out of it. And that's all the new gun stuff. Let's get on to the main topic. And with us today is Zach from Armalytics. Welcome to the show, Zach.
Thanks for having me.
So maybe just for our listeners who haven't heard of Armalytics, let us know a little bit about like what is it and how did it come about?
Yeah, so my name's Zach Whittemore. I'm the creator of Armalytics.ca, and essentially what it is it's a web application that people can use to search and explore the Canadian firearms reference table. So on there's some tools to filter by action, legal classification, all sorts of things. And then you can also just do a freeform search for any firearm that might be out there.
Yeah, and it works pretty good. I've used it to look for a couple of guns as people ask. I've looked a couple of times. It's interesting because there are lots of variants on there. I don't think a lot of people have like looked at the FRT data before. And so there's guns in there where it's like, oh, why is that one showing restricted? I thought that one was non-restricted. But
there's a lot to sift through for sure. But overall, I think that to the credit, they did a pretty good job at keeping it organized, and it allows it to be searchable to some degree. But there's all sorts of things you can find in there. I know we're going to talk about the pre-designations and reclassifications, but there is some positive to it. You can find oddball calibers to a particular firearm you might be trying to collect or things like that. So there's all sorts of ways you can use it to find information.
Yeah, and I mean the ones that I saw that were like surprising was the variants where they had short barrels and the short barrel ones were restricted or prohibited. It's like, oh, that's why, because I've never seen those ones before. But the non-restricted ones, international
like sports shooting exemption or something for some of those. Yeah. So there's lots in there to learn about and see.
Yeah, so let's maybe talk a little bit about the reason why you had to make this thing. So the RCMP were forced to release the FRT data because this was a secret government database that told you whether you were breaking the law or not, and we weren't allowed to access it because reasons. And then they finally had to release it, and they released it as a, how big is the PDF?
It was almost 200 megabytes and had about over 100,000 pages in a single document. So without some a special PDF software, it's hard to open. And then once you open it, I mean, there's no way to search for anything meaningfully, right? You can search for one keyword at a time, but good luck trying to find a particular Remington 700, right? Because there's how many different models of them out there, right? So it was pretty much useless to the average person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whereas your website, I mean, I've found it super easy to use. It's got I don't know what you did with the search, but there's like a search as you go kind of a thing. So if you wanted to search for a gun over here, it starts doing some suggestions. So it's very easy to kind of find the gun, see what's up with it, and find out more information about the stuff super quick.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So when it, I guess, like you mentioned, for a while there, they weren't releasing it. I think a private citizen did go to the courts and basically say, why can't this be released? And the information commissioner said to the RCMP, you have to release it. And I think it was actually Ralph Goodall who was trying to fight this, as you said. But eventually they said release it in early 2019, and it took about a year for them to finally get it out. And I think a lot of people were excited to see it. And that's when I wrote a program to take the data out of it and put it into a database that we could actually search through a web application. So right now where it's at is the RCMP update this PDF every 2 weeks. So it's not live, all right? There are live versions of the FRT that businesses have access to and law enforcement have access to, but it's better than nothing. So we do get an update every 2 weeks, and the way the site works is it just it looks for these updates every day, and if it finds one, it pulls it down and then updates the site accordingly.
Very nice.
So great getting access to that stuff, and then doubly great when we got that OIC and thousands of firearms on it, and then all that mess trying to figure out what was legal, what wasn't, was terrible.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the public version was released in February. So this was well before, we knew that the election had happened. There was an inkling that something was going to come down the pipe. But then May 1st is when, the order in council came out, and we got the first FRT update after that on, I think, May 7th. And that's when it really, opened things up, and we could see what exactly had been reclassified at that point. And so early on, mostly everything that was named in the order in council, like all the models that were prohibited by name, were reclassified, and then a whole host of other things started to be redesignated by the RCMP. Some of it was expected, things like like any cartridge that's going to put out more than 10,000 joules of muzzle energy. Now, of course, you could say maybe with a smaller barrel, it might not hit 10,000 joules for a particular cartridge, but for the most part, every 460 Weatherby Magnum was redesignated to prohibited. So that wasn't named in the OIC, but we kind of expected that would start to happen. And so over the course of May and June was when a lot of the updates took place. And so a lot of it was, putting all these, high energy cartridges to prohibited, but then there was all the unnamed variants that started to happen. And these were, the RCMP was claiming that these were variants of AR-15s and AR-10s that were not mentioned by name in the order in council, but they started to change their classification to prohibited. And that's where the kind of controversy really started.
Yeah, so I think early on, on your website, I saw a pump action shotgun that had like a carry handle on it, and I don't know, telescoping stop maybe, and that was designated an AR-15 variant.
Yep. There was a bolt action shotgun as well, the Adler B210. I don't know how common it was, but it was a bolt action that they said the upper was somehow an AR-10 upper or something. It's kind of hard to see how that works, but
so yeah. I actually have a question. We're on shotguns on being prohibited. I thought the first one to be prohibited was actually a single shot shotgun, I thought. Maybe my memory's fuzzy, but I
like
think
an
I recall there was a
something?
single shot.
Well, the strange thing with the 8 gauges is that, so I know there was the whole thing that came out about the bore diameter on the shotguns and taking the choke tube out and whatnot. And, that was kind of a controversy for the 10 and 12 gauges, but the 8 gauge it is over 20 millimeters, the bore diameter. But after May 1st, all the 8 gauges were just removed from the FRT. They just disappeared. And I don't know if that was political because, unlike the more kind of modern sporting style shotguns, these are old school, very expensive, hunting shotguns that are 8 gauge, and they just were up and gone from the FRT.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. So,
that's Mike saying Ivor Johnson. I think that's the one. What I remember seeing was the Ivor Johnson was like the first shotgun to show up as prohib.
Yeah, there was that single shot, and then I believe you had the Typhoon come out, the Dira MK12, and around the same time, that's when you had the Alberta Tactical Rifle Supply, the Modern Sporter, Modern Hunter, Varmint. Those were all redesignated as along with the Maccabee Defense SLR multi-lower. And so that all came out around June and May of 2020 without any notice to anybody.
Yeah.
And with comments that contradicted earlier comments.
Yeah. So I have the exact wording here, but so I guess part of the goal of the site is to look for these changes and notify the firearms community when they occur. And so, part of updating the site is I also have a program that looks for any new prohibitions, but we also look for any changes to the language in the FRT that might signal something up and coming or something, suspicious. So in the case of those Alberta Tactical Rifle Supply rifles and others, there's a legal comment section in the FRT, which kind of the RCMP gives its interpretation on why it made the classification or other important details. And, they said things like, for those Modern Sporters, it says, I'll just read it exactly. It says, it has a different system for mounting upper to lower receivers than either the AR-10 or AR-15. And then it goes on to say that it's not a derivative of any of these. And that was just removed from the FRT entirely after May 1st. And so, why did they do that? I don't know if they're just trying to remove some of the old wordings. But there's another interesting example too that was brought to my attention. We didn't find it in the English FRT, but in the French FRT, once they brought it to my attention, I was able to find it. And it was for the Valmont Hunter. Now, this is a firearm that has not been prohibited, but it is, an AK variant, and it's kind of exempted and it's a special case that maybe in the future would be targeted. But in the Canadian law comments for that firearm, it says that it was a common firearm used for hunting in northern communities and was distributed by the government, right? That's what it says. Oh. And that was removed from the FRT. Now, I don't know what that means, but it's a signal that maybe there are other changes that are happening, and we look for those to see, okay, what firearms are they changing comments on, because it could be an indication of something to come.
That's really interesting, and not surprising that they're removing that stuff, kind of trying to sweep stuff under the carpet, like, oh, well, this is how we were able to change our minds. We never said that. Yeah,
I mean, the whole point is that these aren't used for hunting, right? That's what they want to claim. So if you have it in your FRT that they were, and again, the hunter has not been prohibited and is not necessarily, I don't expect it to change until there's new legislation, but, when you're saying that it's distributed by the government and is used for hunting, it's hard to then prohibit that because it's a deadly weapon, according to them, if that's in the FRT. So,
yeah.
So yeah, we look for those changes and try to notify people when we see those.
Roughly how many firearms were added after the original prohibition at the beginning of May, or close to May?
Yeah, so I'd say there's about kind of 3 categories of firearms that get redesignated or added as prohibited. So one is going to be new AR-15s that come on the market. I mean, in the U.S., they're always making new models of AR-15s, and so part of the mandate for the FRT is to, when the RCMP finds new firearms, create an entry and add it. So we do see a lot of AR-15s that are added to the FRT, and they're going to be added as prohibited.
But they never would have come here anyways at this point.
Well, not at this point. Or if they did, it would have in the past come in as a restricted AR-15. And then the next category would be all the stuff like the muzzle energy stuff. So that, after the FRT added another 400 or so firearms to the prohibited list, because it's, the 460 Weatherby Magnum, the 408 Cheyenne Tactical, 500 Nitro Express, like all those large high emitting energy cartridges, anything that had a configuration with that caliber.
And these are all firearms that were sold in Canada at some point.
Yeah, almost all of them.
Yeah, okay.
And it doesn't mean that the other calibers are prohibited. It just means that one is de facto prohibited. It's not because of the caliber; it's because it's the energy. But for the most part, they just ban anything with that caliber. They've banned. That's how the RCMP have done it. And then the final category is the stuff that used to be non-restricted that gets changed, and that's the stuff that people are really interested in. And I'd say there was between around 70 of those, or around 50 of those, that have been either added. So some of them were in the FRT before May 1st and changed. A lot of the stuff we see now, we don't really see stuff being changed. We just see stuff being added as prohibited. So that's like the stuff that happened recently in December, like the Sterling Arms, what's the name? The TSR.
Yeah.
So, and as well as the SLR Coyote finally got added. Now, I know that uses the Maccabee lower, so it was probably already prohibited, but this makes it explicit. If there was any legal argument to say, well, you didn't ban specifically this, now that argument's gone. And it's also, I think, tells law enforcement that, if you're out shooting your coyote and you say, oh no, it's a coyote, and he looks in the FRT, doesn't find it, maybe you'll get off, but now it's in there. So I think it is important that, even though we kind of already knew it was banned, that it's important to know that it was added explicitly. So those are two that happened last month. And then we also had another shotgun last month that was that added one of those kind of modern sporting style shotguns.
The AR variant that uses no direct injection or no DI system.
Yeah, and I think my favorite is the is that Mossberg Plinkster. That was one back in 2020, but that's the one that I still don't understand. I would love an explanation for, because as far as I know, it was just the action of the 702 with a different stock around it. So the action's the same, but we've seen that they are using the look and the marketing as reasons to consider it a variant.
Oh yeah, the Blazer 22 was a prime example of that. With the AK furniture one was prohibited, but the rest of them, same action, same everything.
Yeah, same everything else.
Yeah, it's strange, but what can you do? So, and I think it's important that everybody knows that the FRT is not law, right? I mean, that precedent's been set, in court, but it obviously, the decisions made in it do affect you, even though it's not law.
Yeah, you'll still get charged.
Yeah,
providing the cop looks it up.
Yeah, because it's the only resource the government has to get a classification, right? Like, the government official's not going to look at the firearm and make the decision themselves. They're going to go consult the RCMP, and it's also used by border agents. So I'd say, law enforcement and border agents are the two who use it the most, and it prevents stuff from being imported, right? Without an FRT, the border agents won't let something into the country.
But it also creates a lot of work, because we're prohibiting stuff by name, not by function or physical status. It's just by name. So I imagine a lot of people in that side, whether border services or the verifiers for the RCMP, are probably really hating this right now too, because like I said, it's all by name, which yeah,
it must be. It's not a very efficient way of doing it.
No.
But,
you could have a dozen firearms laid out, and they wouldn't be able to separate. Okay, these 6 are prohibited, and these 6 are okay, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a completely ridiculous situation, but hopefully people can find the site useful to know what the risks are. If they still wanted to take their their Typhoon out or something. I mean, you should know the risks. And I do believe that it's important to make the information transparent and allow people to make their own decisions on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we went over recent additions. Are there any sponsors or partnerships that you'd like to mention from the website?
Yeah, so we don't take any. It's a non-commercial site, it's not technically a non-profit because it's not a charity, but it's a non-profit, but it's not a charity. So, but we don't take any money. We just take donations from the public. So if people want to donate, they can go to the site, and there's a link there, and anything helps to try to help pay for the server costs, and that's all greatly appreciated. But I try to keep the site independent and have it so that it relies only on information in the FRT. We don't editorialize it. The only thing I do is I put a little tag on things affected by the OIC, but other than that, the information is exactly as you'll find it in the FRT, and that's how I want to try to keep it independent and as transparent and accurate as possible. Yeah, you can keep it nice and neutral. We'll editorialize on this show.
Oh, we will.
Sounds good.
So I mean, it looks awesome. It's a super useful resource. I think you've done a really fantastic job stepping up for the firearms community here, and putting together this thing that is so super useful over the PDF that they send out for us.
A massive PDF.
Yeah, a massive PDF. I don't know that we would ever find the results of some of the prohibitions without a site like yours that's checking the diff between before and after, and makes it easily and readily available. So just on behalf of the firearms community, thank you so much for putting this out. It's tremendous.
It's my pleasure. It's one way I can try to contribute to things. So I'm glad that people find it useful.
Yeah. Maybe before we let you go here, what are some of the oddest things you've seen in there for prohibited firearms and some of the different entries?
Well, definitely things like the Plinkster, that's one of the most strangest ones. We did talk about, so there actually has been one firearm that's gone the other direction. It went from prohibited to restricted. And that's one of these international shooting sport exempt firearms. So it was one of these short barreled handguns that I think it was a high standard of some sort with a super short barrel that would typically be prohibited, but I guess they realized that was exempt. So there's been one firearm that went the other way. And apart from that, they're not prohibited, but you find, some of them are, but you find some strange homemade stuff in there too. Like one guy with an electronic trigger group that works off a battery or something. Like some people are getting pretty creative, and some of those things do end up in there, as well as things like antiques and other things that maybe aren't firearms, but they add them in anyways.
Do they still have magazines and that kind of thing in there? It's not like they had 50 Beowulf mags in there, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if the public FRT doesn't have any distinct entries for magazines, but sometimes you'll find in the log comments like the 1022 mags that were kind of controversial and prohibited for some reason. They comment on that sort of stuff in there, as well as things like if it came out of the factory if there's versions with an integrated suppressor, they'll make that known and things like that.
So confusing.
I got a question. You had mentioned the international sport exemption. Can you elaborate on that? How does a firearm get that? Because I can think of a lot of firearms right now that are used in international sport.
Well, I think it's only for handguns, but this is something I didn't know about until that one firearm switched from prohibited to restricted, and then I saw. So one useful thing on the site is for every model, there's a section that lists all the different configurations. So that's going to tell you the different calibers that are out there, barrel lengths, but it'll also give you the legal authority for why they made the decision they did. And so it'll reference directly a paragraph in the OIC or another part of the criminal code. And so for those firearms, it referenced this international sporting competition handguns paragraph. And then so I went and read that, and I think they just listed by name a couple handguns that were banned in the 90s that had been used in competition. But maybe we can get more stuff added to that. I don't know.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I think there's a lot of guns that need to go on that exemption.
Yeah, well, we need to get street gun to be an Olympic sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Sport recognition now, and AR-15 is a very popular one for IPSC rifle.
Exactly, yeah.
Sporting equipment. That's not an AR-15.
Just hoping.
Yeah, just sporting equipment then.
Yeah.
Just like golf clubs or a baseball bat or anything else.
We do have one comment here. Mike's wondering why the FMG Javelin was added to the OIC. Isn't that Natural Resources Canada's jurisdiction due to the explosive nature of it?
I don't know if I can comment on that one specifically. I mean, that one would have been added probably because of the bore diameter, but I'm sure it's still exempt for those people to use in their line of work.
I bet people were getting the tubes. I bet you people were just getting the tubes, not the actual like firing bits of it. And, and that's what they're doing there. Yeah,
I've had conversations with people that said that some of the stuff was already technically prohibited because of some other acts, but certainly you wouldn't be able to find the ammunition for that as a civilian.
Because like the tube's probably super dumb, and the actual warhead is the bit that you would not want people to have.
Yeah. Well, I thought that whole section on the OIC was funny. They started listing off all these anti-tank missiles, and wait a minute, I could have had that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the anti-tank rifles, like there's some old German ones that were like had squeeze bores that started big and then ended up below 20 millimeters. But because the top part was bigger than 20 millimeters, that was banned, I guess. Right.
Oh, interesting. I'm still disappointed. I didn't get one of the PTRDs or PTRSs when those were available. I don't know if you guys were owned guns at that time, but you could get one of those for $2,500 or so. And they're an enormous anti-tank rifle. Surplus. And like hard to make ammo, but
yeah, that would still be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be a wall hanger now. Awesome. Anyone else to shout out or anything to mention to our viewers before we let you go, Zach?
No, check out the site, and I guess I'm open to trying to take on special requests for data analysis on the FRT. So if there's anybody in the industry or the public that wants to know some information they can't find on the site, just reach out to me. There's an email address on the website, info@Armalytics.ca, and I'm happy to try to help with any special requests that people have.
You're too good to us, Zach.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, thank you very much for what you've done. It's been a huge help for everyone.
Thanks a lot for having me on the show.
Thanks, Zach.
All right, take care.
Thanks again to Zach for coming on and doing all of us a service, getting that website up, because I don't know how to search all this stuff. And his website's so fast. It's so nice. So definitely check it out and donate at Armalytics. Listener feedback. Listener feedback is sponsored by Armory DC Gunsmith. Armory DC Gunsmith is a full-service gunsmith who specializes in firearms refinishing. He offers hot bluing, parkerizing, Cerakote finishes, as well as wood refinishing. Check out his online inventory of new and used guns, firearms accessories, optics, and more at dcgunsmith.ca. We don't have any emails over the New Year's Eve. I bet you all of our listeners were drunk off their ass, so that's probably why we didn't get any emails.
It's possible.
It's possible, yeah. And we've been mostly hitting all of the Facebook comments. There was one early on in the show from Garrett just saying, thanks for the tip on the shotguns. Palk finally came in on New Year's. Decided on the Mossberg 500. Can't wait to fire it. Yeah. It's a pretty solid gun. Yeah, pretty bulletproof, pretty solid. I think that's the only one we didn't get. For 22, throw on a barrel tuner is what Mike's saying for that muzzle thread. That's an idea. Yeah. Yeah, that's an idea. But then I got to shoot a bunch more ammo at the range, just like sitting, doing like just testing accuracy. I actually don't like target shooting at the range. I like shooting for a purpose, like stages. I like shooting steel or shooting reactive targets. I like I've got
action shooting.
Yeah, I've got a review of 22 ammo that I haven't published yet, but I'm pretty close to, where I reviewed 60 kinds of ammo, and for each of those kinds of ammo, I fired 100 rounds out of them to check for groups.
Wow.
And it was a huge waste of time, like massive waste of time. Like, don't do that. It's not necessary. The most interesting things I found is like some really cheap bulk ammo shoots like total garbage out of some guns. and really super good ammo will probably shoot gun in like good in every gun you have. And there's a couple of like value winners, like Blazer 22 LR is a really good value priced high velocity. CCI standard velocity is a very good value price standard velocity ammo, and I don't know, everything else you kind of get what you pay for.
Gotcha.
And I don't like shooting targets anymore because it was so boring. And then scoring them afterwards, measuring all these stupid groups. Oh my God. It was just painful. So painful. We don't have anything from Patreon or Instagram or Facebook. If you want to, head on over to Facebook and review our page and say something good or bad about us, and we'll probably read it on the air. If you'd like to email the show, send an email to slamfireradio@gmail.com. Finally, shout-outs. Any shout-outs from you guys?
No, not really.
For me, it's to our guests. Like, it's nice to have a super smart guy in the community to put together a site like that, because not many of us could do that. And we really need that information, right? So
yeah,
you buy a gun today and then you're a criminal tomorrow. So it's nice to know like what's being prohibited. But
definitely, yeah. Thank you.
Not that we want that, but that's it for me.
It's good to know if you're going to get like arrested or not. And that's sadly the state of things is that you have to know.
It's amazing they didn't want to release that information. Like, it seems pretty important, doesn't it?
They don't have a way. They don't have a way of like, they don't know if I've got like one of those crazy bolt action shotguns. They're not restricted.
Yeah.
All right. Well, check us out on Gunners of Canada. Like us on Facebook. Join the CCFR. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
All right.